Many processes in human body requires energy. For example, the synthesis of protein from amino acid, the building of protoplasm for growth, and cell divisions requires energy. Heartbeat, respiratory movement, and all the muscular contractions requires energy. Active transport, whereby food substances are transported against the concentration gradients, requires energy. For example, the absorption in the bile in small intestines involves active transport, so it requires energy. The questions rise here from where this all energy comes. It comes from respiration. What's the respiration? We will talk today. Let's start. जब किसी भी लिविंग सेल के अंदर कोई भी फूड सब्सटेंस ऑक्सीडाइज होगा और एनर्जी रिलीज करेगा तो हम कहेंगे कि ये सेल रेस्पिरेशन कर रहा है। क्या कर रहा है? रेस्पिरेशन कर रहा है। तो रेस्पिरेशन इज ऑक्सीडेशन ऑफ फूड सब्सटेंसेस विद द रिलीज ऑफ एनर्जी, with the release of energy in living cells. I can repeat it. Respiration is the oxidation of food substances with the release of energy in living cells. There are two types of respiration. One is aerobic respiration, the other is anaerobic respiration. First of all, we'll discuss aerobic respiration. What's the aerobic respiration? Aerobic respiration is the breakdown of food substances in presence of oxygen. The word presence of oxygen should be highlighted here. Mean to say, when our oxygen is present, then the respiration would be aerobic. Aerobic respiration is the breakdown of food substances in the presence of oxygen. It releases a high amount of energy. The equation for the aerobic respiration is C6H12O6, aerosine, carbon dioxide, water, and ATP. ATP is a molecule in which energy is stored. The equation for aerobic respiration is C6H12O6 plus O2, aerosine, CO2 plus H2O plus energy in form of ATP. Balance it 6, 6 and 6. This is the equation of aerobic respiration. In aerobic respiration, glucose or food substance, carbohydrates, break down in presence of oxygen into carbon dioxide and water molecules and energy. Water molecule and carbon dioxide is here waste product, and ATP is used, energy is used in our daily works. As I said you that it is used in the synthesis of protein from amino acid, the building of protoplasm for growth, and the muscular contractions and heartbeats. All the energy consuming processes are given energy from this process, means to say from the ATP or the energy release as a result of aerobic respiration. This is the aerobic respiration. I can repeat the aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is the breakdown of food substances in the presence of oxygen. In the presence of oxygen. The equation for this is C6H12O6, O2 6 times and CO2 6 times, H2O 6 times. Energy is released as a result of aerobic respiration. So now we will discuss about anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration is the second type of respiration. Number 2, anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration is the breakdown of food substances in absence of oxygen, but with the less amount of energy comparatively with aerobic respiration. Mean to say, in anaerobic respiration, less energy is produced than aerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration is the breakdown of food substances in absence of oxygen. The absence of oxygen should be highlighted. Whenever the oxygen won't be present, then the respiration occurring would be anaerobic. What's the respiration occurring would be? Anaerobic respiration. In some microorganisms, such as in yeast, anaerobic respirations occur. Anaerobic respirations occur. For example, in fermentation, in the formation of alcohol. When the alcohol is formed in fermentation, the yeast is added in a packed container, and glucose, for example, the juice of grapes is added to make the alcohol. In the closed pack, the anaerobic respirations occur, and the mixture of yeast and carbohydrates forms do anaerobic respiration, and as a result, ethanol and carbon dioxide and some amount of energy is produced. This ethanol is then used in society as drinks, and also sometimes anaerobic respirations occurs in our tissues. When the anaerobic respirations occur in our tissues, when we do hard work or we run, for example, if a man runs, the energy consumption increases. What increases? The energy consumption increases. Mean to overcome this energy consumption, the tissue respiration increases. To provide oxygen, mean to say to occur aerobic respiration in tissues, our lungs increases the intake of oxygen. What increases the intake of oxygen so that the tissue demand for aerobic respiration is overcome. But there is a limit. After we cross the limit, then the oxygen deficiency occurs. If the oxygen deficiency occurs in tissues, then the anaerobic respirations occur. As a result of anaerobic respiration, lactic acid is formed and carbon dioxide is released. What form? Lactic acid. In yeast, ethanol was formed, but always in tissue respiration, lactic acid would form. What would happen after lactic acid? The fatigue would happen. Mean we would feel pain in our muscles. We cannot move our muscles. We have to take rest so that our muscles would relax and they would ease. So, question right here is that how taking the rest make us ease? When we take rest after a long run, when we take rest, the lactic acid that is produced as a result of anaerobic respiration is transported to the liver, and the sun is oxidized to provide us energy. Mean the lactic acid, sun is oxidized to provide us energy. This is the reason why we feel easy after taking the rest. Now we will talk about two things involved in aerobic respiration. One is tissue respiration, the other is gases exchange. As I told you before, the tissue respiration. In aerobic respiration, in tissue respiration of aerobic respiration, the glucose in presence of oxygen is converted to carbon dioxide, oxygen, and the energy. This is the aerobic respiration or the tissue respiration involved in aerobic respiration. What's the gases exchange? Gases exchange involve two mechanisms. One is breathing in, which is called inspiration. The other is breathing out, which is called expiration. Breathing in mechanism, the mechanism which are involved in breathing in are the external intercostal muscles contract. Mean when I breathe in, my external intercostal muscles would contract and internal intercostal muscles would relax. What would happen when I would breathe in? My external intercostal muscles would contract and internal intercostal muscles would relax, and the diaphragm would contract and the volume in the thorax would increase. As a result, the pressure in the thorax would decrease because they both are inversely proportional, and as a result, the air would enter into the lung. And the mechanism involved in breathing out are the external intercostal muscle would relax and the internal intercostal muscle would contract. The volume in the thorax would decrease, the pressure in the thorax would increase, and the diaphragm would relax, as a result, the air would move out. Mean it would breathe, the air would come out of our lungs. These are the two mechanisms, breathing in and breathing out, which are involved in gases exchange. As a result, carbon oxygen is reached to the tissues and aerobic respiration occurs. Now we would have short summary what we have learned today. The first thing we learned is that respiration is the oxidation of food substances with release of energy in living cells. This is the definition of respiration. The second thing we learn is the type of respiration. There are two types of respiration. The one is aerobic respiration, the other is anaerobic respiration. These are the two types of respiration. In aerobic respiration, we learn that the breakdown of food substances in presence of oxygen with release of energy. The main point here is in presence of oxygen. In presence of oxygen, the equation we learn about aerobic respiration is this: C6H12O6 plus O6 in oxygen result aerosine from carbon dioxide, water, and energy. The equation we learn is this: C6H12O6 plus O2 aerosine, CO2 plus H2O plus energy. And in anaerobic respiration, we learned that anaerobic respiration is the breakdown of food substances in absence of oxygen with release of less energy comparatively than aerobic respiration. In anaerobic respiration, we learned that in absence of oxygen, mean to say when our oxygen is absent, mean there is no oxygen, then the respiration occurring would be anaerobic. Then we learn about two types of anaerobic respiration. We can say that it's a type such as in yeast and in tissue. In yeast, the anaerobic respiration results in the formation of ethanol, and in tissue it results in the formation of lactic acid. The anaerobic respiration and aerobic respiration in fermentation result in the formation of ethanol, but the anaerobic respiration in tissues results in the formation of lactic acid. In the tissue respiration, the resulting product of anaerobic respiration is lactic acid. Then we learn about the lactic acid, how taking the rest causes us ease from the pain that is because of lactic acid in our tissues. Then we learn about two things that are necessary for aerobic respiration. One is tissue respiration, and the second is gases exchange. In gases exchange, we learn about breathing in and breathing out. Then we learn about the mechanism involved in breathing in and breathing out. In breathing in, we learned about that when we breathe in, the external intercostal muscles contract and internal relax. We learn about the diaphragm. Diaphragm contracts and And we learned that as a result, the air would enter into lungs. Air would enter into lungs. Then we learned about breathing out mechanisms. Breathing out. In breathing out, the external intercostal muscles would relax and internal would contract, and the diaphragm would relax and the air would pumped out. We also learned about the volume in the thorax. In breathing in, the volume in thorax would increase, and pressure, volume, and the pressure would decrease. But in breathing out, the volume would decrease and pressure would increase. These were the things we learned today. So this was the end of my class. Please subscribe my channel for more videos. I will be again with you with another interesting topic. Allah.